This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, well, another great day. Indian summer is all around us. It's at least in the Midwest. I don't know about where, the East Coast. You probably have glorious colors. And those in California, our guest is from California, so she'll update us with what's going on in that neck of the woods. But it is the end of summer and we're into fall. And as I said last week, that I think it's a mistake that people often think of the new year as January, because I really think you ought to be thinking the new year, especially for authors in publishing and writing, is right now, this month, this time of the year, to really get going, kickstarting. I know the biggest book sales happen right now. They don't happen in January, February, and March, although there's a lot of book launches during this time. So it's really looking at where are we going to do to get this book going and writing. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up today, which I thought would be kind of fun, we've never done a show on ghostwriting. Is there a ghostwriter in the sky? Is there a ghostwriter in the midst? I mean, are you an author with just someone with a great idea, but you just suck at writing? Because listen, some of us do. Some of us maybe don't have the skill set, but we have all these ideas oozing out. How do you get them out and put them together? Well, our guest is going to talk about that, how you do it, plus a lot of other things. Tammy Bleck is a proficient columnist. She's a Huffington Post contributor. She's a ghostwriter, a blogger. She writes for the Jewish Journal. She's a Jewish Journal correspondent, and she's author of really a very fun book, Single Past 50, Now What? And the award-winning blog, which is one of my personal favorites, Witty Woman Writing. Tammy is a distinguished speaker. She's an expert on how to monetize the written word via your blogs, your social media, and speaking venues. So she's one of these people who's a writer for hire. She's best known for her celebrity profiles, commentary pieces, award-winning blog and self-help columns, and she does educational seminars, coaching work for aspiring writers, bloggers, and small business upstarts. So let's jump in right away and meet Tammy Bleck. You can contact her at Tammy at Witty Woman, that's single, womanwriting.com. And, just treat yourself because her blogs are all over the place. And it's a treat for me when I get to them. Hi, Tammy. How are you?
Hi, Judith. Reading my description, I'm exhausted. I'm a busy girl.
You are a busy girl. You are a busy girl. So there you go. All right. So let's really look at some of these things that's going on here in the ghostwriting world, because it's an area that a lot of people don't really know or understand what exactly it is. So why don't we just start there? What is ghostwriting, and should an author, even one who can write, care?
Oh, my goodness. Yes, I think, for authors that are authors for the purpose of just sharing their personal story, ghostwriting's not for you. But if you'd like to make a lucrative living with your writing, ghostwriting is definitely an option that you should consider. It is writing for someone else, in someone else's voice, their story. You do not get any credit, byline, nothing. You do, however, get a fat check.
Well, fat checks can be good. But, and I have to rewrite. I have actually had to go several of these books that come in that are such a frickin' mess. that I've had to rewrite them, and I've never come in as the ghost writer. I just do it under my content editing contract, but
Right.
it really is a ghost writing deal.
I'm assuming it is because I know what you do, which is amazing, by the way. I've known you for a few years, and I know your work. Yes, you do ghostwriting.
So, a ghostwriter is someone, well, let me just say, and just throw it on the table. Is this someone where you sit down and you pick their brain? Is it as you as the ghostwriter? Is this something where someone just ships you off a bunch of stuff in envelopes or boxes and you kind of go through and filter through them? I mean, what's the process?
Well, that's an interesting question, and the answer is the process is different for almost everyone. You do get consistent things that you do, but I also want to share with you and your listeners, Judith, that ghostwriting isn't only for books. I do a lot of ghostwriting for people's blogs. I ghostwrite speeches. I ghostwrite content. Anytime you write something that you do not put your name on and you do not get credit for, but you get paid for, you're ghostwriting. There's a lot of money to be made ghostwriting blogs and speeches and presentations. I do TED Talks. I write a lot of TED Talks. I've got, I think, 17 under my belt so far. But I write them for the people, by the people. So, you know, and how do you figure out what you charge? That's something we should get into. But the process is, for many people, first of all, the author should, or the writer should definitely spend a lot of time talking to the person on the phone and making sure this is a client you want. It's you know, sometimes those big dollar figures get, you know, in your eyes and you think, oh, I want it no matter what. But you have to make sure that client isn't going to be the huge time suck of your life that takes every bit of energy you have for the next 6 months, because no money is worth that. And so you have to devise questions and have a good feel for the personality and listen to your gut. And sit down in person is a great idea. It's not always possible. You know, I have clients I have a client in Australia, a couple in New York. So it's not always possible to do that, but good phone conversation. You know how you weed things out? People in business, we weed things out. And you have that conversation. What do they want? And then you ask them, send me a sample. Send me a sample of your writing. Send me a sample of a chapter or two. And that's super imperative, because you know better than anyone, Judith, that you can see the first page. Does this person know how to write? Is it going to take me, 20 hours to fix it, or is it going to take me 20 minutes? And that will also go into your process of pricing. Does that help you?
You know what? I have been fooled a couple times, Tammy. I have to tell you that I have found sometimes people will really spend a lot of time on those first couple pages because they've heard all of us say it's those first couple of paragraphs that are the grabbers. So you think that, oh God, if they've really got it together here, this might be a piece of cake. And then you get into page 5 and on, and it's, oh my God, it's a disaster. And that what you had estimated the time that you would be able to do the project for is going to be quadruple.
Right.
So I'm just saying you got to be careful here, because they're getting smarter.
They are getting smarter. I usually I will read probably 30 to 50 pages of a person's work before I take them as a client.
Then you'll know. It's all over the place.
Right.
Where that comes from. So you mentioned, I'm fascinated with the TED Talk idea, which, I would love to do a TED Talk. And it's for all of you who are listening in, that TED Talk is a extraordinarily platform for you to get on. And there's locals, and certainly if you get pulled in, you're really successful, you could get pulled in the national, you just never know. But it can be a career changer for many.
Huge.
Just huge.
And it's hugely prestigious. And it's a way to contribute also. It's a way to give back. It's a way to contribute to society, in addition to being a big boost to your career. But somebody has to write those speeches.
They do, and they're unique speeches. They're very different.
Yes, because the presenters are hugely different. Yeah.
They're hugely different. Well,
another great avenue which has opened up in the last couple of years is the writing of ebooks.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're the shorter ebooks, the 99 pages or less.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, I'm a big believer in the short book is the new black. Short is the new black.
Agree.
And I think that all these books are getting smaller and smaller. And I know I'm teaching a course now on how to write a book in 4 weeks. And I do it both on site here in Colorado, my base, but also we do it remotely during these months where we will do it, 4 weeks. And there is distinct assignments. And we have a live 2.5-hour coaching session each week with the group. And I keep the group small.
That is awesome, and that is what people need to do. And I have to say, and this sounds like a plug, but it's really not. One of my favorite books is a small little book called Snappy, Sassy, and Salty.
Oh, I love that little book. I
love the book. It's a tiny little
I wrote that book. Snappy, Sassy, Salty.
Awesome
little
stuff.
sayings, getting down, and that it's it was my first really small book, but it's a high-end quality book. I think what both Tammy and I are talking about here is creating these small books is, you could do them hardcover if you want. Snappy, Sassy, Salty is hardcover. It actually has a ribbon in it. It's got decoed paper edges. I mean, it's an expensive book to produce, but it's not something that I can go to Ingram Spark or Create Space for or any of those. But there are things that you can do with a variation that you could take out the ribbon, you could take out the decode, you could do those things and really cram it out there. I mean, there's variables in what one can do there. All right, so let me ask you this. You use the lucrative word. What's lucrative mean here? What kind of monies are we talking about?
Well, let's talk money. If I'm doing an ebook, 99 pages or less, mm-hmm. It's usually somewhere between $4,500 and $6,000.
Mm-hmm. To write the whole thing.
To write the whole thing. Darn thing.
Right.
But if I'm doing a book, many of the ghostwriting books are substantial reads, and they start at about $20,000 to $25,000.
Exactly, and that's what everyone needs to know. If you've got a deep pocketbook, and you're going to come in with your box and turn it over of stuff to someone, you could pay anywhere from $20,000 up to $80,000, even $100,000. I've seen on some of these, especially when the celebrities get involved. And by the way, if you think any of these athletes, any of these celebrities, any of these big business gurus who wrote their books, I have several bridges I'd like to sell you because they don't.
Or sinkholes.
Or sinkholes. All right. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the sinkholes to stay away from. We'll get into some of the things because Tammy opened up, all right, so you do the $4,500 ebook. Well, ebooks are easily converted to a print on demand. We're going to be right back. It's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. My guest today is Tammy Bleck, and we're talking about ghostwriting, both being a ghostwriter and acquiring a ghostwriter.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Many of us have dreamed of writing a book.
Some of us even have.
Then the hard work starts.
You'll need an editor.
Who will design the cover or typeset the pages?
Who will format the ebook?
If you're a business owner, consultant, or coach with a serious message and expertise to share, the team of experts at 1106 Design can guide you through the maze.
They've helped more than 1,000 authors create top-quality books and avoid the not-so-reputable self-publishing companies.
Learn more at 1106design.com.
Then call Michelle at 602-866-3226. 1106 Design.
Is there a book in you or another? AuthorU will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, AuthorU is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join AuthorU today through its website at AuthorU.org. Follow AuthorU on Twitter at AuthorU and on Facebook at AuthorU, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. AuthorU, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
First impressions are everything in the world of book publishing. Whether your book is an ebook, a print version, or both, your book cover needs to pop, sizzle, and sparkle to immediately capture the attention of your audience. And your book's interior needs to be just as dynamic and reflect the professionalism your readers demand. Nick Sellinger of NZ Graphics has won numerous national and international book awards for his cover designs and interior layouts. With over 20 years of experience in graphic design, he knows what it takes to create award-winning books and the many promotional pieces that authors need, such as posters, banners, postcards, one-sheets, business cards, logos, and more. Visit ncgraphics.com and see what authors and publishers have to say about their award-winning books and how NZ Graphics can make your book the success it was meant to be. That's nzgraphics.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, lucrative. So,
One of my favorite words, by the way.
Go ahead, Tammy.
One of my favorite words, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, lucrative. I like that too. All right. So if you're thinking about doing a short book, which I'm a big proponent of because of the way people work today, the way they live today, the way they play today, they're looking for things in sound bites. You have to look very closely at who your generation is that you're writing to and for. And you have to look at, what are you supplying, especially in the how-to self-help area. People are looking for answers. Number one, they're looking for pain relief, and you have to think that you're the aspirin to solve their pain. And they want it fast. They want it to dissolve fast. They want to be able to get it quickly and do it. So short really does respond to them. They don't want to have to go through chapter after chapter finding for the aha that's going to start easing the pain. If you're writing something for pleasure, which is where our fiction authors get into play, then your words can be linked with word after word after word, because then they want to have a long, often leisurely read. So there's different variables, but what Tammy's talking about goes towards the business reader. It's going towards someone who's looking for solutions, and more of a faster in and out. Wouldn't you say, Tammy? Or did I get that wrong?
No, you're right.
Okay. So with that in mind, lucrative ebooks of going out to it, I think that any author makes a huge mistake by exclusively thinking, I'm only going to do an ebook. Don't go down that path. And so, Tammy, I would suggest to you that you have kind of a little add-on for the quick conversion into that, so that they think that it's also a print book, but just even go for a very short run or on the print on demand so they have it available.
Exactly.
Because remember, 70% of all reads are still print. They are not e. And people forget that. They think it's totally an e-world, and it is not. In fact, we're seeing some regression going back.
A huge regression.
Yeah, well, I'm one of those regressors. So
Me too.
yeah, I'm a print girl, and I've always been upfront about that. But it doesn't mean that I don't put all my stuff in e-format. And I think that you also need to consider having the audio coming along, because audio is $1.4 billion last year in audiobooks. That's a whole new area. And for you authors who write sensational things, romance, erotica, fantasy, audio is where you want to make sure that you come along, because this is where a huge amount of listenership comes from, listener and readership. With that, all right. So we're into the lucrative side. So ebooks are around 4,500, 6,000. We've got print books anywhere from 20K up. What else is out here? We've got articles and blogs.
I've got blogs. I've got clients that I do blogging for their business. Some of them are real estate ones. A couple of are lawyers. Everybody that has a website generally has a blog now, and they want to have a blog that garners attention and comments and gets shared. So they don't have the time to do it, and no one on their staff is well equipped to do it. So they hire out. And people like me and people like writers, freelance writers, are the people they hire. And the general price for that is, depending for about 350 to 600 words, is $250 for a blog. So you're getting the idea now that by writing for other people, you can make a fairly good living.
I think that it's interesting. The American journalist came out with some data that was kind of devastating, Tammy. I don't know if you saw it, on the earnings dropping down from 209 to 214. The Authors Guild came out with it. But the earnings had basically dropped 38% for freelance writers. It's
hugely disparaging, and I'll tell you, one of the reasons that is because bloggers write for free in a lot of avenues. Mm-hmm. That's really the problem, and there's a little bit of a discord among bloggers that write for free as compared to the ones that are trying to make a living out of it, because it is a craft, it is a service, but it has brought the price down because some people do it for free just for the accolades or perks. Mm-hmm. They give giveaways instead of money, mm-hmm. That kind of thing. So
if the person who is letting them blog for them or guest blog, and maybe we should talk about guest blogging too, that gets into that, if they will give a link to whatever their services are or let them do a little ad pitch. Most of them will not. So, correct. I don't know how to get around that. Maybe correct. You just don't do it.
The only time I will do a free blog is if I'm allowed to link it to either a seminar I'm doing or a book I'm selling or my website and my blog. If I can't do that, then it's not a fair exchange, is it?
I don't think it is.
No.
Yeah.
It's not a fair
I don't
exchange.
think it is.
And you and I and the writers out there didn't, hone our skills to give it away. We're a viable, legitimate business. And yes, our pricing is, all over the map because writers are all over the map. But, if you don't think that you're worth something, then no one else will either.
I think that's an important thing for all of us to keep in mind. Tammy, what about articles? Is that going to be a different cost factor than blogging?
Yes. Articles do not pay very well, but what I do get from articles and what everyone gets from articles is prestige, and I call it the as-seen mentality. You know how we used to say as seen on TV? We used to make a joke about that. Okay, mm-hmm. Well, as seen on Huffington Post, as seen in Jewish Journal, as seen in McCall's magazine, whatever. So you might only get $200 for that article, but you can parlay that into a speaking gig as seen and get paid $2,000 to speak on this very same blog that you wrote for $200. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and I've had that happen.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anyone that is good at writing should be also and learn how to be good at how to parlay that, because every blog I write, I can parlay into something else.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one. You know, I wrote an article, and it was eventually featured in Entrepreneur Magazine. You know what they paid me? I think it was $150. I'm not even sure. But to be able to say as seen, as featured in Entrepreneur Magazine opened up so many doors for me.
Mm-hmm. And then here's what I would tell all our listeners to do when they start getting featured, whether it's the Huffington Post, on a TED Talk, on 2020, on the nightly news, on, fill in the blank, wherever it could go, is that you want to go capture the logos for those media companies and create kind of a collage on your media page or even your home page. And you could put, as Tammy says, as seen in, as featured on. And then people start seeing that and they're going, wow.
Right.
So never, that's a branding. Never undervalue the brand of somebody else who has worldwide or certainly recognition within the group that you're trying to reach out to. Never underestimate that.
Excellent advice.
Using those. All right. So we've got articles, we've got blogs, we've got ebooks, we've got prints, we've got TED Talks, and speeches. What does it cost to craft a speech? I mean, we all know the president has a speechwriter. He doesn't write his stuff.
Right. No, a lot of people don't write their stuff, Judith. I do a lot of speech writing in Los Angeles, in Beverly Hills area, where there's a lot of industry that requires speakers, and they want something. They only have an allotted time, and they don't know how to write it, and they want it punchy and humorous and whatnot. But so it depends on the time. I will price out my speeches according to the time, because I know how fast I write and what I write. And, of course, this is after a lengthy conversation with the person. But, if it's a 20-minute speech, it's going to be, much different price than if it's a 40-minute keynote, right? So, yeah, it depends on, and it also depends on the topic.
Yeah.
If it's a topic I don't know a lot about, I'm going to have to do a lot of research. And digging and making sure, so I'm going to charge a little more for that. But those speeches are generally probably about $2,500 to $4,500, and I'm cheap.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that a lot of people also need to understand, as my experience is, I think it's much easier to craft a 50-minute, an hour keynote than it is a 25-minute one.
Absolutely.
Because you are honing down, where you can get those other fillers in, and it really takes a lot of thought. The other thing is, I think it's important to when I'm prepping something, like I had my 3-day event, Judith Briles Unplugged, in August this year, and so that is 3 8-hour days of me just presenting and doing things. And I put in, for every hour I present, at least 6 hours behind it in prep.
Right.
Related. And that's rewrites, that's thinking about it, noodling, researching, visuals, slides, fill in the blank, exercises. And I think I think all authors should really move towards speaking. I think that's the way you move books, big amounts of books. But you have to really understand there is work that goes with it. So whether you engage someone to create the speech for you, you are engaging, especially when they don't know your speech. Like Tammy says, she has to go out and do sometimes some deep diving research, that it could take far more than 6 hours for every hour.
That's right. And also the difference about speech writing as compared to anything else that I ghostwrite for is that I just don't deliver the speech. And we've okayed it, and we've gone through it, and we've done some drafts, and here it is. Thank you very much. Lovely check. Have a good day. But rather, we sit down, and I allow for like a 3-hour session, a coaching session of where you should pause, where you should emphasize, where you should eye contact, because they don't often know.
Oh no, they don't. But I want them to get out from behind the damn lectern.
Exactly.
And
but a lot of people don't want to.
I know.
It's a crutch.
All right.
It's a crutch.
All right. Well, we're gonna take a quick break here, and what I want, Tammy's kind of opened the door to a lot of ways to go that you could actually, if you are a wordsmith, as we call it, if you're really good at word, maybe you ought to consider writing some other people's words and making some money. But what if you're not so good at words, but you need to go on the other side of engaging them? So maybe we can get into some key questions to ask Tammy, to ask a potential ghost who we want to bring in our midst. And when we come back. So this is Judith Briles. My guest is Tammy Bleck today. We're talking about ghostwriting, being one, as well as acquiring one. And it's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Since 1987, Color House Graphics has set the standard for quality book production. Whether you decide to print a small quantity of books or need a large print run, depend on Color House to help you. You'll receive professional help and advice the moment you reach one of our representatives. If you mention hearing about us on your guide to book publishing with Judith Briles, we will provide you with discount on the first order you place. To speak with a project manager, call us toll-free at 800-454-1916 or visit us at www.colorhousegraphics.com.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers. Creating beautiful and well-made books, we're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, is there a ghostwriter in your midst, or do you want to be a ghostwriter in someone else's midst? Well, there's always the pros and cons, the ups and the downs, and I think that we ought to deep dive into those. And who best to ask but someone who has done it and it is doing it for many people. I suspect, Tammy, there are some people that you've offered to send their check back if they would go away.
I have sent their check back.
Yes.
There was no offering. There was, this isn't the fit that I was hoping for, and I can refer you, and here's your money. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know some designers do that. They'll just say, look, if you go away, I'm giving you all your files. Never call me again.
Right. Don't you? True.
Oh, yeah. I know. All right. So what are some of these upsides and downsides? I mean, the upsides is you can make money. And you can meet a lot of fascinating people, and you can learn a lot of amazing things.
Correct. And yes, and all of those are really positive. And I will always like to throw in, as every writer does, I get to work in my bathrobe and pink fuzzy slippers. That's always a big plus too. So I mean, that's doing what you love at home, not having to do the drive on the freeway is always a good thing. But yeah, you have to when you meet clients and whatnot. But there is definite downside, and I have been actually tapering off my ghostwriting on purpose. It's kind of like sometimes it's hard to get away from, but I'm not doing as much of it as I used to because it is all encompassing. And I will tell you that the downsides that we have as writers presenting can all be solved by a solid, good, concise contract. A contract that gives limits of time, turnaround time for both people, a contract that gives people an out, both sides, and a contract that will specifically say when X amount is done, a payment is made, and I personally do payments in 3 increments. A third when we start, a third when we're halfway, and a third before I present the final copy. You notice I said before I present the final copy.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah. And the reason that is because I did get burned many, many years ago when they had the final copy, and they said I have to make too many changes, even though we had made changes together on our own, and never got that check. And that was, okay, lesson learned.
Mm-hmm. I have one of those too. It's known in our office as the dreaded IRS book that we did for an attorney. Oh my God, it was awful.
Yes, but the contract also helps, the clients, because the downside is, what if they hire a ghostwriter that says, I'm going to have this for you in the first 30 days, and it's 2 months later and you've got nothing? So you have a contract you can hold them to, and vice versa. And also there's a turnaround time. I have, with my client, my contract, my clients I will say, I will give you something, and the turnaround time that you give it back to me is 10 days. Or whatever we agree on, because with some people, celebrities especially, that's very hard to adhere to, which is why the price is higher, by the way.
I think also it's important to realize that when you start communicating with anyone for any contract, not just ghostwriting, it could be a designer, it could be an editor, fill in the blank, that you may be diddling around while you decide, or maybe you're interviewing several people, and you finally think, that person number 2 I talked to, I think I really like them. I'm going to go back to them. But meanwhile, a month has gone by. Right. They may not have the window to take on your project in the time that you had talked about. So I think that that's important to get out front.
That is a brilliant sharing, because when a ghostwriter accepts a project, such as a book, it closes the door on any other prospects, unless you're likely to work on 2 books at once. Very hard to do. I like the other aspects of my life. I like to go out and speak, and I like, being a columnist and writing for HuffPost and doing my own blog. I need time for that. So I can't imagine taking 2 big book projects at once. So you're absolutely right. I've never thought of that, but I'm going to keep that in mind for future. It's a very good point. That window does close, and it closes hard, and it's a definite lock, because if I bring something on and it's a 350 to 450 page book, I'm done for 6 months. I'm done.
Exactly. And I get caught with this too. I mean, I don't do ghosting. I mean, I do content editing, and I'm doing other project managements for things. So I sometimes I have 10 books I'm juggling, because they have different phases. I've got it out to the designer, I've got this going on, and I just have to keep track and keep them in the play, versus ones that I have to really nail down and do writing on. And that what people don't get is that I could have taken on 2 other projects, because with that lapse, that means you go to the end of the line. And they don't get that. A lot of them don't get that, Tammy.
It's hard for me to understand why.
Oh.
I don't understand why they don't get that, because I'd like to see them try to do it. It's impossible. It's impossible. I think the biggest mistakes that ghostwriters make is, the number 1, they take on too much, and number 2, they don't vet their clients.
Mm-hmm. So are there some signs Are there some vet signs that we
Oh,
should know about?
absolutely.
And the vet goes both ways. You talked about
Absolutely.
having a contract. I mean, so let's say that I'm an author who needs some help. And so I go out to interview. What kind of key questions should I be asking a potential ghost?
You're going to ask me for samples of my work.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than give you samples, and this is why every author should have a blog, and I think most of them do, I would lead you to specific blogs that I have written that are in the genre of your book so you can read the way I write. And then I need to explain to you that is my style, but it is my voice. My style will stay the same, but it will be your voice. And it's hard for them to understand how that's possible. But people that don't want humor in their writing rarely hire me because there's always a little bit of humor in there. I love humor in books, by the way. But so you're going to ask me what my time frame is. You're going to ask me when you can call me, and that's a big flag for me as well. Can I talk to you at night? I get my best ideas after 10 o'clock at night. Get that a lot. Are you available on weekends? So these are also, when you're vetting me, I'm vetting you with your questions. I'm realizing that you want a personal...
So I don't want you to call me at 10 o'clock at night.
Exactly. Exactly. So what you're saying to me, this is really important. And of course, this is what often happens is, I need to get this out right away. I'm in a big crunch. I want this out before I have a product, or I want this out before I'm giving a presentation, or I'm going to go speak somewhere here and I need it out, and it's 2 or 3 months away, whatever it is. And so they feel that you should be able to work weekends and nights with them, and they want to know if you're willing to do that. And my answer in the beginning when I started out was yes, but I'll have to add more to the check. And it didn't take long for me to realize that more on the check really wasn't worth answering yes to.
Well, I think that's important. I think here's what I think one of the big problems that many authors to be have is that because they are not getting paid directly for their writing and their creation or whatever they're doing, is a lot of times they have a hard time writing a check to someone else for something that they've been doing for free. Does that make sense to you?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times that they don't understand the value when you put a project price on something, or you put an hourly fee on something, that it just doesn't click with them. And it's the thing, well, this is what I do for a living. What do you do? What is your regular job that you do for a living? You get paid for. So why don't you do that for free for a while? And of course, that's not going to go over big. But that I have said that before. So those are things to do. All right. So the upsides and downsides, the good news, the bad news. So I think those key questions are important to ask a potential ghost if you're in considering them. And then on the other side is that if you're considering being a wordsmith for hire, you want to ask them what key questions?
You want to always ask them, first and foremost, what are your expectations? What is it you want at the end of the day, of the first week working, at the end of the project? What is it you want? And the answer that you think you'll get is not the answer that you get. People always say, they're going to say, I want a finished book that I can sell. No, the answer, I want to get 10 chapters done in the first 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Or I want, so be specific, be super specific. And what are your expectations? And how much time do you think you're going to be putting into this? How often are you accessible? Because many times they have full-time jobs and families. And it's one thing for me as a writer to write something, and then I've given it back to them. What is their personal life like? Tell me about your personal life. Do you have 3 kids, 4 dogs, a cat, and a husband, and a job? Because now I know this is going to take a lot longer than the 3 months you've just asked me to fill in, because you're going to need to be involved in this substantially. It's not just me. I will write it, send it to you. You will say it's too cute, it's too funny, it's too serious. It's not to the point enough. It's too wordy. It's not wordy enough. It's not strong enough. It's too weak. And that's the other thing with ghostwriting. Please don't have a thin skin. It's not personal. It's something, that's the reason you're a writer. You can fix it. You can make it funnier. You can make it lighter. You can make it more dramatic or more politically inclined. Whatever it is they're asking you for, you can do it because you're a writer. But they need to give you, the biggest problem we have is people that don't give us enough direction. So our job is to get that direction. What are you looking for? How would you describe your voice? How would you describe your intent? Are you serious? I want the cookbook to be fun. I want it to be whimsical. I want it to be show pictures with this, and I want my little logo man there. And do you get the idea?
Mm-hmm. I totally. So I think what's really important is that you've got to really articulate what your expectations are. Expectations is the right word, and what you want. And I'll tell you another critical thing that for me, working with someone, and that I finally had to I threw in the towel on someone saying, you're not going to get your book done because you don't respond. Whether it's an email, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a text, she may not respond for 2 weeks. And that some of these questions that are going out would take 30 seconds to respond to. And that every time that I think both the person who is ghosting has to lay that out, what kind of time frame you need to get back. But you also need to say that when you ask a question, you need to have a response within a certain period of time so you can go forward with what you're doing. Otherwise, it's going to be a miserable relationship, and the outcome probably is not going to be very good.
You hit the nail on the head. And also, it's holding up. If you got $10,000 to start the project and you're going to move on to phase 3 2 months later, and they're holding it up, they're holding up your second $10,000 payment.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's come back. We're going to have one more segment in ghosting, the pros and cons, and we want to get into some of those things that maybe a contract should have within it, and maybe some of the other difficulties that we should all be aware of. Tammy Bleck is my guest. I'm Judith Briles. It's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher, or by a publishing service provider, or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today, 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207, or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, final segment on ghosting. And I'm really glad that we have done this because certainly a lot of people have questions on, what is involved in the process, how long it takes. And as Tammy says, it could take 6 months for a regular book. It could be much shorter for other things, but each one is going to be different. So you're going to need to ask specifically as you go around. Tammy, how does someone go out and find a ghost? I mean, do you just Google ghostwriting?
You could. You absolutely could. I would go on LinkedIn, and I have been found on LinkedIn by many people, and put in the word ghostwriting, and anyone that has that in their profile description should come up for you. I mean, you could Google, but you're all over the world. With LinkedIn, you're specific to wherever your location is.
Well, no, LinkedIn is all over the world.
True, but you can see where they're from right there.
Oh, exactly. And you can get up their profile very quickly and see who they are before you even reach out, which is always a plus. And I would say if their profile is really incomplete and there isn't anything there with sampling or linking or websites, take a pass. That would be my gut reaction.
I would go with that.
Yeah, I just think that's a mistake. All right, where else would we look? What about ads you see in some of the like Writer's Digest and things like that? Are those worthwhile following up on?
You know, I have never advertised for ghostwriting. I know some very solid ghostwriters now. I never knew them before, but I know them now. None of them ever advertise. I think the hardest thing is getting that first gig, because you cannot use your clients as a reference. And no matter what, it'll be the death of you in the field of ghostwriting. If you're at a birthday party or an anniversary party and you're talking to your best friend, you cannot tell that person or anyone that you wrote that book for that celebrity that's now the New York Times bestseller. You can't do it because it'll get around. Trust me, it'll get around, and no one will hire you. So how do you get that gig? How do you get that first gig? Once you have that first gig, you can honestly say, I guess you could say it anyway, but you wouldn't be truthful, I'm a ghostwriter. But you write on your website, in your blog, you write about different things. You write and you display your style, and you put your best work there, and you select it out, and you put it in your profile, on your business card, on your email, on your LinkedIn, on your Twitter, on your Facebook, that you're a ghostwriter. Everything that you have should say that. And therefore people say, oh, I'm going to check her out. Once they check you out, they check your blog out. If they like what they see, they're going to talk to you. And if they like what they hear, they're going to ask you for a price. And if
you also should be using the hashtag ghostwriting on some of your postings.
It absolutely helps, as you well know. Anytime you're using social media, yes, I would use that hashtag if you're especially, and I would write an article about ghostwriting and write a blog about it and then take that blog and go get it published. It's not hard. It's really not hard. They're dying for material. And if you're not finicky about receiving a lot of money for that, and you shouldn't be, by the way, because it's a standard fare, because it's really not the money you get paid for that blog post that's going to show up in Reader's Digest or Writer's Digest. It's about the people that are reading it.
Which is your potential market down the road. I mean, that would be a great advertising piece to have that picked up, where you're writing about whether maybe the trials and tribulations of a ghostwriter or the adventures of ghostwriting, which there has got to be some great adventures out there. You just can't name the players.
Exactly. And you can't give too much information so people can peg it. I will tell you that I have a client who is a wonderful mega celebrity of the old time. He's a writer. He's been a writer for 50 years. He still goes to a writing club twice a month. This is a man who's got a lot of books under his belt. He still goes to a writing club. He does it for to hone his craft, but he says, I get business. Mm-hmm. Because when you're in a writing club, you're talking to people that want your help as well as want your advice, and know people who will hire you if you're a ghostwriter, which he is not. But there's business everywhere. But if you know as well as I do that 90% is showing up.
Always is showing up. And breathing while you're there. That's always a good thing to do too. I would say. So it's socializing with those things. But I, as I said, as we started off this hour, that almost every celebrity has a ghost. That if you look at the bulk of New York Times, and even, by the way, a lot of the fiction people have ghosts. These people who are on there time after time after time, that there are ghosts, or there's a team of writers they have now behind them because they're so busy. And if you've been following, I know that I went bonkers on someone who I had read all his stuff, and there was a distinct change in his writing, and you knew either he had a major brain fart and couldn't write anymore, or someone else was writing for him because it was not his style. It wasn't there.
Right, and you can't fool readers. When we're a fan of that person's writing, we get it real fast.
Oh yeah, we do get it real fast. And not only did I post on the reviews that I questioned it, so were hundreds of other people questioning it.
There you go.
I wasn't alone in that. So, trust your gut. But if you do need help, I think the thing that's important here is that if you do need help, it's out here. You just have to do your homework. It's like, you're talking about an investment here. It's an investment in your career, in your positioning, in your reputation, in your credibility. So if you're going to get help, you want to make sure you have the right player in play who gets you. And Tammy Bleck has said it so many times, do they understand your voice? Can they write in your voice? So they're going to have to do a sample to come back to see if this sounds like how you would say it.
Exactly.
And is that common, Tammy, that you do a short sample so they can see what's going on?
It's not only common; it's absolutely necessary because you don't want to, as a writer, you don't want to rack your brain, trying to get it right. Plus, that sample that I give them, they'll say you're very close, but I'd like to see a little more sincerity or drama or a little more hilarity, or it doesn't fit my sense of something, and then I can do a rewrite. If the rewrite doesn't, from there, and a lot of people have a hard time explaining what they want. So give them adjectives to describe it, and they take off and tell you. It's absolutely essential. You want to give them something that, give me a piece, let me rewrite that, give me an idea, let me rewrite something and see how that feels. And almost always it's either a yes or a no right then and there.
And, let me ask you this then. How many rewrites do you allow before you say, you know what, this is not going to work?
In my contract,
on either side.
In my contract, it's 3.
Okay.
It's 3 rewrites and no more. Otherwise, you're going to be rewriting yourself into next year. Mm-hmm. And beyond.
Well, and that's a problem. I think that a lot of authors will get into the continual tweaking, that they want to keep retweaking all the time. And that I try to teach them that's called the next book. called The Next Book.
Yes, that is the next book.
It's the next book,
if
please.
You have to do that much retweaking, just
But they
start another
do.
book.
They start retweaking, and they get into things. And I have a very young, successful entrepreneur. The serial entrepreneur, I call him. And he wrote he had a ghost actually for his book that was brought in. And he's come back and says, God, some of this is really dry. It sounds really cocky. And I said, well, that's what you delivered. That's what you okayed. So now you want to rewrite it? Tell me what you do. What are we doing here?
Right.
So, it's a challenge of that, because a lot of times I think people, their expectations are, Tammy, and maybe I'm wrong, is they think that if they've come to agreement, this is what our contract is, we're going to do this, and they turn it over, that when it comes back, it will be the pristine, this is the absolutely thing I want. And they sometimes don't even look at it. And when they look at it later, they're thinking, wait a minute, I wouldn't have said it that way. So what's the responsibility, before we close up, because we have a couple of minutes here, what's the responsibility of the author's name on the book to the ghost when it's delivered back?
When it's delivered back.
Yeah.
The responsibility
when you deliver the finished product back, in your view, it's done. What's their responsibility?
Their responsibility is to
I think it's a good idea
book.
that they should read it.
Well, they've read it before I get that final check, because we'll read it together. Did you read the first chapter? Did you like what about this section on the page 87 that I noted this? Because I will highlight that. I've got all that stuff down. No, I liked it. Okay, and then they initial it and send it back to me. That it's accepted. And after we do the second rewrite, I'll say, we have one more left. We got to get it right. Tell me everything you need me to know. And that's it. So their responsibility is to listen and to perform in their time frame and to give me the feedback the first time, if not, then the second time. And then to, be happy. Hopefully they're very happy. I've got a good record for that. In the past, probably better in the last 7-8 years than the first 2 or 3. Because it takes a while to figure out the finance, and they pay you that check, and they're happy as punch, and then they get out and have to promote their book.
And there you go. All right.
My hands are done.
Well, yeah, there you go. All right. So I would encourage all of you to follow Tammy's blog, and you can get it at her website is wittywomanwriting.com. You will see that it has humor. She loves whimsy. There's, and that is Tammy on that. So if you're an academician, probably I would say it might not be a right fit, Tammy. Would that be correct?
That'd be correct.
That would be correct. But if you want someone who can connect with people and brings humor to it, with the glint in the eye, so to speak, Tammy's perfect. Follow her blog on Witty Woman Writing. Thank you so much for being with us.
What a pleasure.
All right. This is AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. It's Judith Briles. Keep on writing. Keep publishing. We'll be with you next week.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Each week, a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take you, the author, to the next level. You'll learn tips and secrets on how to create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve book publishing success by making one very simple change in your book's journey. How to avoid the publishing predators. How to create an author and book platform that rocks. Learn how to make a living with your words and your books. Learn how to publish a book that has no regrets, and so much more. For more information, check out AuthorU.org, where authors who want to be seriously successful go. And Judith's website, thebookshepherd.com. Then join us again here next week for more. It's Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on the Rockstar Radio Network.